to the cloud.
Yeah, so when people come,
So when you hit, there you go.
hello everyone, we can go ahead and get started. My name is Shloka Iyengar. I'm going to spotlight myself. I'm based in New York. I'm originally from India. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications at SWB. And it's really my pleasure to welcome all of you to this annual meeting. It's really an exciting time for us as we tell, all our volunteers what we have been up to for the past several months. A few things I would like to say. This meeting is being recorded. So if you would like to turn your videos off, that's completely fine. We are hoping to send out the recordings to everybody after the meeting is done. The other thing that I wanted to let us all know is that there is an option for closed captioning. So if you go on your Zoom screen, there's a little box that says live transcript. And if you turn that on, you'll be able to see the subtitles. So if you want that way of engaging with what everybody's about to say, that's definitely okay as well. We, of course, have the chat function. So if you haven't done so already, please feel free to share where you're joining us from, your name, and if you feel comfortable doing so, your LinkedIn profile, so that people can connect with you. We have our executive committee. We have Matt, who is our chair, and Matt Brands he's our leader. He's been amazing, of course, for this presentation, just helping everything come together. But as and when we go through things, he will also put in the chat the resources that are relevant to that particular slide. We will also send all these resources out as an email later, so you will have that as well in case you wanna just take a look. So before we get started, I would like to invite Gary, who is one of the co-founders of SWB, to say a few words and to help us get started. Gary, please take it away.
Okay. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining the meeting today, both people that are members of SWB and those who are interested in thinking about joining. When I co-founded SWB, Citizens Without Borders, about 13 years ago, I sort of hoped we could find a small number of clients each year, and maybe projects to work on, and maybe eventually might be around 30 members of SWB. It's been just amazing, that we've been able to get so many more projects than I expected, but particularly a lot more people, a lot more statisticians interested in doing volunteer work and joining SWB. It's been just amazing, and I've been really thankful about the interest. Some of you are active in SWB and are volunteer for projects. Some of you are just members and haven't done anything. Some of you aren't members yet, and that's fine. And we now work on about 30 projects per year. And we have a number of volunteers for each. It varies, but number of volunteers for each project that we work on. And at the beginning, I'd have to sometimes call up a particular member of SWB to get somebody to work on a project, because we didn't have anybody that just volunteered to work on it, or at least was competent to work on that particular project. Now we put out a request for volunteers, and typically within 2-3 days, we get a large number of volunteers, more than we can possibly use on the project. And it's been great in that sense. Bad for some of the people who want to volunteer work on projects, because you don't always get selected for a project, or you don't oftentimes get selected for a project. One of the unique things about SWB is that we have a zero budget. It never had any budget. I don't know of any other nonprofit organization for whom that's true. We started off as an unofficial group of the American Statistical Association, and they have been providing in-kind support to us from the beginning, and that's allowed us to easily have no budget and not have to raise any money to operate. So I want to thank all you for being here that are our SWB members and have worked on or volunteered for projects. I'm confident that SWB will be around and thriving long after I have died. And just want to thank everybody for who are members for what you've done. And just say, don't be discouraged if you volunteer for a project and you're not selected right away. If you keep volunteering, keep looking for things to get involved in, sooner or later you'll be able to be chosen or work on a project or work as part of the administration. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gary. And coming to that point of finding opportunities to volunteer, over the next hour or so, a few of us are going to highlight some of the opportunities that some of the positions that we need volunteers for. So please reach out to us if there's anything that you want to do, if there's anything that you don't see here and you still want to do. So that, of course, we always want to hear from you. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everyone to the Statistics Without Borders annual meeting. This is a complete pleasure for all of us. My name is Shloka. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communication at SWB. And before we get started, I'm sure many of you already follow us on social media, but please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Go to our website. Thanks to our volunteers, we have a new website. And also, if you have any questions over the next 50 minutes or so, please, chat with us. We will have about 10 minutes or so at the end for Q&A. And of course, if you cannot get to our question, please email us as well. We have our email in the chat. Hopefully, please, Matt, if you could post the email. But you've all heard from us, so you all have our emails already. So this is what we're going to do today. Matt Brems, our chair, is going to give an intro to SWB. We will talk a little bit about the progress we've made since last annual meeting. It's again super exciting because we have some project and client managers, PCMs, who will tell us about the work that they have done with the clients, with our projects. And then we'll wrap up with talking about SWB's plan for the next year. So Matt, do you want to tell us a little bit about SWB, what we do?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shloka. And I just want to personally welcome everybody here today. I'm excited to be chatting with you. So my name is Matt Brems. As Shloka mentioned, I'm our chair here at Statistics Without Borders. And I want to echo what Shloka has shared and what Gary has shared in terms of We are so grateful for your support. We're so grateful for the work that you have done in support of so many things here at SWB, and we could not do what we do without you. And so in terms of doing what we do, so we were started in 2008. You heard Gary talk earlier. Gary, Steve, Jim, and Fritz, 14 years ago, helped to develop Statistics Without Borders. And our goal at SWB is to be able to provide pro bono services in statistics and data science to individuals and to organizations who may not be able to afford such services on their own. As Gary mentioned, we're part of the American Statistical Association. I would be remiss if I did not thank them for their support. For example, today we're using their Zoom account, and so we're very grateful for their support there. They fund our website, and in addition to that, we're so grateful for their partnership. So with that said, Shloka, if we want to move to the next slide. You may have seen this before, depending on how familiar you are with SWB, or depending on how familiar you are with our setup. But the way that we are organized is that we have three main groups. There's a marketing and communications directorate that's run by Shloka. We have an operations directorate that's run by Gitanjali Shukla. And then we have an engagement directorate that is run by David Whitford, as well as Fatima Zarin. And all of that exists under an executive committee. The three groups here, we're going to talk a little bit more about these three different groups and what they mean and who's part of it and the roles that they have in a moment. But I'll let the individual leaders there speak to that. Shloka, if we want to head to the next slide. What I do want to quickly call out here is the SWB Executive Committee for the next 2 years. So from now and through 2024, this is the SWB group who is leading us. So as I've already mentioned, I'm chair here. I'm joined here by my fearless vice chair, Dr. Jay Brodsky. We are supported by our past chair, Dr. Jean Opsimer. In addition to the three of us, we've got Lena Lichtig supporting us as secretary and treasurer of our organization. Gary mentioned that we do not have any budget, so treasurer is a little bit of a formality there. But Lena helps to support our executive committee as secretary and taking on projects that are helpful to us. Gary, as one of the co-founders of SWB, maintains a seat on our executive committee and helps to support us and the work that we do. With all of that said, and no disrespect to the people who I've mentioned so far, I really do want to shout out the people who do so much work for us. We have the heads of our engagement directorate, Marcom directorate, and operations directorate. So working from left to right, David Whitford is in charge of engagement. You'll learn a little bit about engagement in a moment. And he has been joined by Fatima Zarin. They have worked together. They've done a ton of work to support the engagement directorate. And that's where all of our projects happen. You're going to see the quantity of volunteers that they have supporting them, but I won't steal Fatima's thunder here. But they are the people who really work day in and day out and make Statistics Without Borders what it is and power the work that we do. You've already heard from Shloka. Shloka Iyengar is our marketing and communications director, or we call her our Marcom director, and she does everything that you see. So everything you see on our website, on our social media, on our Medium page, on our everything, she is responsible for all of that. So she and her team work. In many ways, it feels like literally tirelessly to make all of that happen. And then Gitanjali Shukla, our operations director. What Gitanjali does is manages everything behind the scenes. So what she does is she and her team make possible what Shloka does and makes possible what David and Fatima do. So I want to shout them out as they're the people who get us to keep moving forward. I could not say enough positive things about the work that these four talented people do. And then we've already mentioned our relationship with the American Statistical Association. Steve Pearson is an ex officio member of our executive committee. He is our main liaison to the American Statistical Association. So with that, Shloka, we can head on to the next slide. And actually, I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Fatima Zarin, one of the people who's leading our engagement directorate right now, to introduce what engagement is and what engagement does.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Matt. You were far too kind. Excited to share a little bit more about our engagement team. And so we have really 4 main functions or teams under the engagement umbrella. So we have the new client acquisition team led by Kathy and Gary, who you saw earlier in the call. And essentially their role is to introduce new clients to SWB and really discuss whether or not it makes sense to have a project with this client if we have the appropriate expectations, and really set the framework for what we do and how we can support. So they're really part of that first vetting process. If you ever have any suggestions or clients, feel free to send that along to Kathy and Gary. And something we've been working on over the last year or two is really moving towards having a more international reach. And what that means is that we have to consider other languages. And so we've had some wonderful PCMs and volunteers who have introduced some additional opportunities to us to ensure that we have a broader reach. Next, so after we have the client through the doors and we are discussing the potential project, that's when you would typically have a project and client manager join the conversation. So NCA has about 11 volunteers. We have about 50, given the number of projects we've had over the last few years. And so the project and client management team, the one that I run, and formerly Lena was also supporting, we work with the client to define the project, scope the project, set guidelines and timelines. And we work very closely to manage the communication, both between the client as well as the other engagement members. So that includes the statistical consultants and then the delivery and quality assurance team or lead on this project. And so statistical consultants are really the experts and the advisors. So they're joining those initial conversations. They guide the additional volunteers that we recruit on our projects. So that happens after we've defined what a project looks like. And right now, Janet and Christine leads our statistical consultants team. And we have about 30 to 35 volunteers on that team. And then finally, delivery and quality assurance. They keep us on track, ensure that we have what we need to complete a project. And so this team really works closely together, in addition to the additional volunteers that I've mentioned that we recruit for most of our projects. So there you go. That's most of the engagement team and the work that we do to ensure that we can run our project smoothly.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Fatima. This was, again, just highlights all the work that volunteers do for SWB day in and day out. Our next directorate, as Matt mentioned, is operations. Gitanjali, do you want to give us a quick overview of your directorate and some of the roles that you're looking for?
Yeah, thanks, Loka. Hi, everyone. Matt has already talked a lot about what our operations does. We are backstage performers. Currently, we are a team of 4 people and looking to grow. We'll talk about about that part eventually. But our team of 4 really dedicated and talented people I have here. Ed Gracely, who works on the database and newsletter part of the operations. We have Ajibola Salami, who works on the email communications, that anytime you have any questions, the person who responds back to you is Ajibola. And then SharePoint and document management part of it is handled by Roshni. So basically what we do here is these 3 things that I just mentioned: database and newsletters, email and SharePoint. We are basically supporting one, we are partnering with Marcom to make sure that whatever you see on the website and everything is, in whichever way we are able to support them, we support them. Also, if anytime we have new tools, integrations happening, anything related to the website, we partner with them to make sure that that happens smoothly. And then when the projects come, we make sure that everyone who needs to have access to the projects has access, documents are managed properly. We are basically housekeepers, I would say. We make sure that everything in the back end works fine and smooth to make sure that whatever is on the front end works smoothly. Anytime we have new projects come in, you see the call for volunteers that goes out. That is also something that the operations team helps with. So those are primarily the stuff that we touch, and anything else that doesn't fall under Marcom or engagement and relates to the smooth functioning of the organization and processes and flows is also something that falls under operations. So with a team of 4, we are certainly looking to grow it more. We need a web developer who has expertise or is willing to dive in and explore it further. Help us with our website, which is using Python and Django. And please email us to know more about it and talk more about it in case you're interested. We have a data analyst role as well. And we need another person to join us on the SharePoint side of it. So yeah, if you have interest in any of these roles that you see here, please email us at the email address that Matt shared in the chat.
Thank you, Gitanjali. So again, lots of ways to get involved. Please feel free to reach out. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce people that I have the pleasure of working with, 7 amazing volunteers in Marcom. Michelle, who is here with us today, does a whole bunch of things. I think multimedia coordinator is probably not the most accurate description, but the videos that you see on our website are created by Michelle. She's also has been instrumental in making sure we have a representation at JSM. So thank you, Michelle, for everything that you do. The website that you access is maintained, updated by our volunteer and job. We also over the last year have made a concerted effort in putting the word out because we have so many amazing volunteers doing really outstanding work. So Simran Bahia, Moy Loful, and Preetham Saharoy, these are the people that are really behind all the social media presence. Recently, we have Farhana Mubin, who joined us as copy editor. So really to make sure that everything that goes out is really of the highest quality. And we are looking for volunteers as well. So we are looking for someone to help us coordinate networking events. These could be things like Lunch and Learn. These could be, networking events without necessarily a learning component. I think we're really open to a lot of formats. So we're looking for a networking coordinator. One of the things that we heard from our volunteers is just the possibility of getting involved in writing things. There's just a lot to be done. So if you're interested in putting up content, please reach out. And then we also send out a newsletter every quarter. So if you have an interest in helping us, really highlight what we do and communicate better to our volunteers, please reach out.
Shloka, do you mind if I jump in for a moment?
Yes, please.
If you wouldn't mind going back to the previous slide, first off, wanted to call out in my haste in editing things earlier today, I must have gotten Moy's name incorrect on here, so wanted to publicly call out my apologies. And I put it in the chat, but Moy's name should be spelled correctly on there, and I'm sorry for that. In addition to that, with respect to the Marcom volunteer positions and the operations volunteer positions, I strongly encourage those of you who are interested in contributing to SWB, reach out to us and let us know that you're interested in volunteering. We have a relatively limited number of statistics specific or data science specific slots. And some of the ways that you can most impactfully volunteer with us go a little bit beyond that. So for example, oh, you're okay. The content developer or newsletter developer, these are things that can be really, really impactful. And we're looking for example, people who can take technical information like the projects we do and better explain it to less technical audiences. So we would love to find ways for you to infuse the statistics, data science knowledge that you have in some of the volunteer work that we've got. So please feel free to reach out to us. I already see a couple of messages in chat, and I appreciate people who are reaching out. But yeah, we would love the opportunity to work with you in some capacity. And you get to work with Shloka and Gitanjali and other folks. So with that, I'll shut up and I'll turn it back to Shloka.
No worries. Thank you, Matt. So yes, please reach out. So that was a little bit of an introduction to, some of you might already have worked on projects, but if you're new, there was like a sort of a introduction to SWB. Next, going on to the snapshot of what we have done since the last year. I think I mentioned networking events. We've been very lucky to host 6 networking events on a variety of topics. From Matt spoke about his professional development, his professional journey. We had talks on RNGG, plot neural networks, and improving collection of real world data. So again, there's a lot of variety of topics that we could, if you're interested in helping us with this role, that is a possibility. I think another huge success of the last year is our collaboration with Committee on International Relations and Statistics. And we had, in collaboration with them, 2 webinars so far. There are upcoming sessions. There is one actually next week on one of the projects that we'll hear about, which is our Open Statistics Courses project that's run by Ian. And on September 21st, in collaboration with CIRS, we have a webinar on spatial statistics with applications on disease mapping. So Matt will post the links for these, so please join us. It'll be really nice to see you there. And this is just Alexandra Schmidt and we as SWB created an article for Amstat News on this collaboration that I talked about. So that's some of the networking events that we have done over the past year. We've also been pretty active on social media. Thanks to our volunteers, we have a Medium page. Please go check us out. We have several articles on Medium. This is just an example of one that one of our volunteers, Neha, wrote up. And we, of course, if you have an interest in helping us develop content for our Medium page, please reach out. We also have, really happy to share that we have more than 11,000 members on our LinkedIn group. And this is really a platform for not just for SWB, but for the entire statistical community to share resources. So if you go on that group, you'll find job openings, book reviews, webinars, tutorials, really a wealth of information. And we have big plans for 2023. One of our, I think Matt mentioned Moy, she is very, very passionate about Clubhouse. So she really wants to get that going this coming year. We have ideas and aspirations for podcasts, and of course, more articles on statistics and related topics. Another thing that we've been very fortunate to do is really highlight our volunteers. So these are a few, Rebecca and Emmanuel, who helped us out on 2 of our projects. If you in the audience have worked on a project, if you want to be spotlighted, please reach out to us, and our team will be more than happy to present you and the work that you do for SWB. So Jay, I think now if you want to take us through volunteer management and what you have been up to in the past year.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. And a very large delivery truck has just decided to park with its engine running outside of my house. So hopefully you guys can't hear that noise too badly. So one of the things that I work on as part of being vice chair is a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And one of these issues that we've been working on the last couple of years is a volunteer management system. So this is the type of thing that we've been working on for months, over a year. And if we've done a very good job, you won't have noticed a single thing at all, because hopefully it should work so well that when we make changes, you guys don't even notice. So there's a set of things that we've been working on as part of volunteer management. This includes better communications between SWB and our volunteers, both ways. We communicate better to the volunteers what's going on, and the volunteers have a good communication with us. Matt put our email address in the chat, statisticals.borders@gmail. You can always get in touch with us by using that email address. And one of the things that we have been focusing on is, thank you, Matt, is keeping everybody up to date on a lot of the stuff that's going on. So networking events, this type of stuff. And also, we love to get suggestions from you all, either about projects, which is a thing I've got on the right over there, or, you know, if you have suggestions about things you're thinking of that might be interesting to do, or if there are things that you think may not run so well and you have suggestions about what to do, we would love to hear all that type of stuff. This is part of volunteer management and part of the communication. One of the other things that I hope you guys have never seen is our conflict resolution area. So there's a lot of different ways that we can have conflict. I know that sounds a little bit odd to say. There can be conflict between two volunteers working on a project. There can be conflict between volunteers and other SWB positions. So conflicts with a project manager or conflicts with somebody else in SWB. And then hopefully, what you guys will never see is there is the potential, we've never had this, but there is the potential for a conflict between a client and SWB members. So we needed to have a system to deal with this. And then one of the other aspects of volunteer management that we think could be very helpful, and hopefully you guys will be getting emails from us about this in the future, is how to handle the situation volunteers have project suggestions. So this is a little bit different than our classic client acquisition system, where a client finds out about us and approaches us and the NCA group handles it. What if there are volunteers who know of potential clients? Do the volunteers come to us and we reach out to the clients? Should the volunteer go talk to the client to come talk to us? This type of stuff, to have a system so that volunteers know how to let us know that there is a potential group that we could possibly help with. So this is all part of volunteer management. And I'm working on this. And then also Lena, who's our secretary, is also involved in working on this. And so we are doing a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. And it's possible that in the future, you might also get some emails from us about positions in volunteer management. We finish getting the whole system set up, we'll probably need some people to help. So maybe there'll be another slide like Marcom and Ops, volunteer management, 3 volunteers. Here's a big list of things that we need. Hopefully we'll have that next year. So that's where we are in volunteer management. Thanks, everybody. Oh, sorry, just one more thing before I forget. There was one thing I was going to mention. If you guys, the volunteers in general, think of anything that, or suggestions that you want to make, go ahead and send it to the Gmail address and it'll get forwarded onto me and I'll be in touch with you guys. So if you guys think of anything, any kind of suggestions you want to make, either about how some stuff is organized, or if there's things you can think of with volunteer management or with communications or any of this type of stuff that you think could be good and you want to bring it to our attention, send it to the email address and I will see it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jay. That was really looking forward to seeing, much more progress. So again, amazing to hear from you, Jay, all the work you've been doing. So I think for the in interest of time, if it's okay with you, Matt, I'll quickly go through these slides. I think we really want to hear the PCMs. So we've, as you can see, there've been many projects in this last year. We'll hear about 4 of them today, as well as 180 volunteers. So that's again, that doesn't even count, like Matt mentioned, people that work with me in Marcom or with Gitanjali in operations. So really a lot of hours, a lot of goodwill that we're really fortunate to work with. And this brings us to the next part, which is giving our PCMs a chance to talk about some of the projects that they have been working. So the first one, I would like to invite Ian Barrett, who has been working with the African Institute for Professional Development, or AIPD, on a series of statistics courses. So Ian, please introduce us to everything that you've been up to.
Sure. It'll be my pleasure. So it's certainly a very interesting project. So let's have a look at how the project has been unfolding. So essentially, just to give some terminology here. So the open online statistics courses are looking to address a skills gap. And this is a little definition of what the skills gap is. Essentially, in a nutshell, it's that what you have are people coming out with a strong academic background, but not necessarily skills that transfer over well to a professional environment in, let's say, private companies and things like that. So the client had approached us to look to create a series of learning material for people in Rwanda, recent graduates, to help them bridge this skills gap. So, and here we have a few examples. For instance, tool-based skills, expertise in Google Slides, R, Python, technical, so you can fit an ML model without overfitting, or interpersonal, and that's the ability to communicate effectively in writing. And so they wanted to make sure that the skills matched what employers in Rwanda were looking for. So yeah, all right, so open online statistics courses. So this NGO that we were working with, the African Institute for Professional Development, is based in Rwanda. And as I mentioned, they're looking to bridge the skills gap. But what we have is that they were also interested in exploring providing these services to other countries outside of Rwanda. So the project scope could get very large very quickly, and that is absolutely awesome. So SWB entered into a partnership with AIPD in mid-2020, and the first phase, one which I was not directly involved with, was to complete the curriculum. This happened in early 2021, and there was a detailed syllabus for the learning modules. So that brings us up to the next phase, which is where things really got big. We started to design online learning for these 5 topics: basic statistics, R, biostatistics, monitoring and evaluation, and econometrics. And I should mention that the last 3 there have 3 different levels as well. So intro, intermediate, and advanced. So we were looking at about approximately 220 hours of learning videos to prepare. So absolutely massive, massive scale. Okay, yeah, great. So open online statistics courses, the current status. So the project is now certainly in its second phase, and this is where we create that learning material. And volunteers in this phase are assigned a series of topics. So each volunteer who applied, we looked at their skill set via their CVs, and we assigned them a topic that fit with their expertise. So we had people from all over. We had people, for instance, who were undergrads who were excellent with visualization, who were able to give us some really top-notch templates for our slides, all the way up to people with a PhD and 20 or 30 years of experience in, let's say, biostatistics, who were able to look at the most complex and technical of topics. So it was really, really a fantastic group. And so, yeah, we've been continuing in that way since last summer. So yeah, go to the next slide. And so how you can help, here's a little shameless plug. So if you're interested in getting involved in SWB, this is a great opportunity because the scale of the project is so large that we can certainly bring on lots and lots of people. So we are putting the videos up on our YouTube channel for now, for the moment. And then learners from across the world can access the content. So we were thinking at first of limiting this to like a formal academic program, but then we said, why not just put it out there for the entire world, so that anybody who wants to brush up on their skills in this area can do so, whether they're an absolute beginner and they're starting with the basic stats unit, or whether they're of the most advanced level in, let's say, econometrics, and they wanted to brush up briefly on, let's say, panel data that they haven't used for a while, and so they can pick up a quick course on that. And then our plan is still to use these videos as the basis for an accredited academic program in Rwanda once AIPD has set up the necessary administrative structure. And this is, of course, a massive undertaking on their part because they want to build a fully accredited academic program. So this is no easy feat, but they are certainly looking into that on their end. And we're hoping for a timeline of early 2023, but this really depends on how quickly AIPD can get this program up and running. So it's out of our hands, but we can certainly continue to develop this online learning curriculum and have it available on on SWB's YouTube station here. So if you are interested in getting involved in this project, just send me an email. My email address is there on the slide, ian.barrett.swb@gmail.com. And yeah, if you have any sort of expertise in any of these areas, we can certainly get you on board very quickly to start creating learning material. So yeah, go to the next slide. And one thing that we do want to highlight is the truly global nature of this project, because it really is by and large, or by far, we could say, SWB's largest project to date. We've had over 75 volunteers involved, and we have covered 6 continents, so everything outside of Antarctica. And so really, I mean, just to name off a few countries, obviously we have lots of great volunteers from the US and Canada. We have from also some great people from Brazil. We have from the UK, from Italy, from Holland. We also have some people joining us from India, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from China as well. We have people from Nigeria, from Uganda, in addition to, of course, the clients in Rwanda. So it's really been like all over for sure. And it really has shown us like the international nature of SWB, and this in a time when certainly we could say that international travel and collaboration in some senses were more of a challenge over the period of the pandemic. So it was a great example of showing that people can still come together from across the world to be able to make for a truly awesome undertaking. So yeah. So if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to either email me directly or put them in the chat there. And otherwise, we have an example video, which is embedded into the slides, which is by Hope McCadden. And she talks about targets, baselines, and data sources. This is from the monitoring and evaluation unit.
Thank you, Ian. And Matt will go ahead and post that video if you just want to take a look, but there's multiple videos on our YouTube channel. So please do take a look and reach out to Ian if you want to contribute in some way. So thank you, Ian, for not just for coming here today and telling us a little bit, but you know, the hours of work that you've put in over the last more than a year. Thank you for everything. Our next project that we would like to highlight for today is our PCM is Carrie Wheatley, and she's been working with HelpAge International. So Carrie, please tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Thank you, Sloka. So I'm here to talk today about the series of projects that SWB ran with HelpAge International in 2021. HelpAge International is a group of 158 organizations across the globe. Its vision is a world in which all older people can lead dignified, healthy, and secure lives. And its mission is to promote the well-being and inclusion of older women and men and reduce poverty and discrimination in later life. One of the main methods that HelpAge uses to achieve its mission is to campaign and advocate for older persons in local and national governments to improve their policies and programs. So if you can go to this slide, the research question that we're trying to answer is on the slide. It's, can data disaggregation be performed on large household surveys to create statistically robust information on health and prosperity of older populations? HelpAge International was interested in running a project to perform data disaggregation for large household surveys across countries of varying GDP and population size. The main goal of the project was to determine whether the data collected for these surveys is adequate for providing information on a subset of the general population, specifically older persons. These surveys, such as the Labor Force Survey and the Demographic and Health Survey, are sponsored by national institutions and provide national governments with information about the general well-being of their populations. But in many cases, sampling is not sufficient to support granular and statistically significant data about smaller groups, such as older persons. When non-granular statistics is created, it prevents institutions from understanding the real level of well-being of marginalized groups. And per HelpAge, the inadequate data itself becomes a barrier to the inclusion of these groups in policy and program responses. So if you go to the next slide. So last year, I led 3 separate project phases for HelpAge to perform the data disaggregation. In the past, I'd actually participated as a volunteer for other projects, but this was my first time leading a project as a PCM. What really struck me was the caliber and the commitment and the passion of the volunteers for the work that they do at SWB. When I started this project, I knew little about data disaggregation and even less about survey methodology, but we have a very extensive network here. And I was able to bring together many experts, including survey statisticians, data engineers, and analysts. In addition to performing the actual analyses, these volunteers helped me to build the methodology, create QA guidelines, statistical table shell templates, and define the overall strategy for success for this project. Really, these volunteers helped to lead me as much as I led them. So over the course of the 3 projects, we performed 12 data disaggregations across 4 surveys in 5 countries. We had a total of 32 volunteers participate in the projects. I had many people decide to stay on the project after their phase had ended to provide support for the next phases. And I'm proud to say that we were able to include many students as volunteers as well. If you go to the next slide. So our overall findings prove that in most cases, large household surveys don't have the breadth of survey participants to provide granular data on older persons. At the end of the project, we provided HelpAge International with survey statistics for the older populations, reproducible methodology and code, and our overall findings and recommendations. HelpAge was extremely enthusiastic with our work, and they published a white paper with our results. And they're really pleased with working with SWB, the quality of our work, the caliber of our volunteers, and they are hoping and excited to do another project with us in the future.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Again, not just for being with us here today, but for all the work you've done over so many years. And thanks to all the volunteers that were involved in HelpAge International Project as well. So thank you again, Carrie. Our next project will be presented by Anirudh Gute. I think this is, I'm sure, sorry if this is a misspelling. I'm just going to say Anirudh and we'll correct your name. But please tell us a little bit about the project that you've been leading and what you have been up to.
Thank you, Shloka. It's actually Goteti, so it
is okay.
But I also go with Ani, so that's easier. Yeah, hi everyone. I hope everyone is doing healthy and awesome. And yeah, so this was one of the most interesting projects I had worked on during my time in SWB, and it was with United Nations, a subset of United Nations which took care of human rights. So I guess everybody knows what United Nations does, and also they have this entity which takes care of that human rights are respected in countries all over the world or in various nations. And yeah, so there's a thing. So before I say anything, I cannot say lots of stuff which went on this project, since yeah, it was quite a sensitive project, and the information I provide can have consequences on an international scale. But now I added some things to the slide which was approved by them. So yeah, we are good to go. So yeah, so the thing is basically this entity of United Nations is trying to set up a reporting tool in their office. And the problem is that they want to make sure that the events which occur in a really sensitive and a conflict-prone country are analyzed properly, and made sure that what they see is actually true to what's happening in that country. And the problem is the technical knowledge that the people have in that office is not high. So the only thing they know what to use is Excel. Another problem is they want to hire a data analyst on a contractual basis, but he or she or them had to start after a few months. So our challenge was to set up a baseline or give them a proper concrete structure on which they could build up. So they provided us with various data sources. I don't know, newspapers, new Excel files, some reports. It was super scattered. And we had to decide a schema which would make sure that the data analyst who would join in the future would have an easier life, analyzing what's going on in the project and making sure that the reporting goes on well. So yeah, so that was the objective, and our volunteers did really well. Sorry, I'll end soon. And yeah, and we gave them a schema, and it was super successful. That yeah, they liked it, and they are right now using it, and they liked our work. They liked our work so much that they reached out to us with another project, where we had to analyze the judicial system in that conflict-prone country. And our volunteers did a really good job, where they gave us a deadline of 4 weeks, but our volunteers finished it in less than 2 weeks. So I would say that this project is actually creating a huge impact somewhere and helping United Nations take on huge challenges in that country. So yeah, congrats to all the volunteers who participated and contributed to this project. Thank you, Shloka.
Thank you, Ani. Oh my God, thank you. Also, I didn't mean to advance it, so sorry. But really, thanks for all your work, and also for the sensitivity with which you're presenting the work, and you're very clearly doing the project. So thank you to you and all the volunteers that you've been working with. Our last, I shouldn't say last, but our next, the next project that we're going to highlight is from our PCM, Christian Anderson. Christian, please tell us all about SOLVE.
Yes, thank you. The background of this project is 2 diseases that can have an important impact on the people that are affected by it. The first one is the ME/CFS, or the chronic fatigue syndrome, as it is known, and the second is the long COVID. SOLVE ME/CFS initiative is an organization that is working to help discovery of diagnostic tools and treatments for these diseases. And the way they are working is through collecting of data that can be made available for researchers. They are collecting data from people that are living with ME/CFS and long COVID, and also they are establishing a control group for comparison. The data collection is done through online internet surveys using well-known questionnaires and survey materials from medical research. SOLVE contacted us in the Statistics Without Borders because they needed to have an analysis of the impact of missing values in the data. To understand that, we can go to the database slide. So the data collection is on the internet, and basically the respondents are self-selecting to participate in the survey after they have been informed of the possibility of it through different channels. They are self-selecting to participate, but they are not self-diagnosed. Most of them have been in contact with medical authorities or doctors to establish their diagnosis. There are 3 different protocols for data collection. All of the participants from all of the groups have an introductory baseline survey when they are introduced to the program. And then there is follow-up every 3 months for the ME/CFS group and the control group, and monthly for the long COVID group. The data we received, they were collected from May 2020 to October 21, And it consisted of 4,500 participants, of which 3,100 was from the ME CFS group and 878 from the long COVID group. We did first an exploratory analysis, and it revealed some issues that would define what we could do with this data. We immediately saw that data tended to be missing by section of the survey, not by individual questions in a part of the survey. We also noticed that demographic data were mostly either complete or completely missing. And we saw that compared to the number of people we had with baseline data, the follow-up was more sparse and there were relatively few of them. So we could not use the detailed time structure of the data collection that we had. We had to simply distinguish between people with an follow-up or no follow-up at all. We did some quite detailed analysis looking at the percentage of people with missing values in different questions, also the percentage of people with and without follow-up data. And we did some comparison of the demographics of the people with and without missing data and with and without follow-up analysis. But I will not talk so much about the more detailed part of it because it's more than 60 pages of tables. But I will concentrate on some of the main issues relating to the structure of the data that I alluded to in the comments on the first part of our analysis. So some of the results we saw that demographic data were missing for quite a large part of the participants, up to 33% of the ME CFS group and 42% of the long COVID group. General health data that was part of it was missing for 50% of the ME CFS participants, 43% of the long COVID. And as we could look into the survey structure, we could see that most missing values occurred because the question was not seen. It was not that they had seen the question and then declined to answer it. And this is consistent with that the participant either stopped the survey at some point in the working of it, or that they skipped some sections or some pages entirely. With the follow-up data, we saw that 10% of the ME/CFS group had a follow-up, 34% of the long COVID group. This is not so much either, and that was what I mentioned earlier. And we also saw that there was some logic in it, in the sense that if you had complete baseline data, you were more likely to have follow-up data also. Next slide. So the recommendations we came with to solve were mostly directed towards some of these structural problems that we saw in the data set. And of course, it was necessary to know why there was such a high proportion of ME/CFS and long COVID participants that did not have the demographic data that are so important for the analysis. And we took up the question of strategies to improve the completion of the survey. That can be the amount of questions, it can be the structure of the combination of surveys or the ordering of surveys. There are many possibilities there. And we also discussed methods to improve retention of the longitudinal part, that is the follow-up part of the analysis. Imputation of data, or imputation of missing data was one of the topics that we thought of when we started the analysis, but that was something that we could not continue with at the state of the data currently. But it is a subject that can be taken up again when more work has been done on the data and more data has been collected. When we prepared this presentation, we were in contact with Solve, and they told us that the project we did was useful for them, and they were using the report actively, and they have been working on some of the recommendations related to demographic data and the survey structure or improvements in that, and the also something diagnostic criteria that we have not mentioned here. Other issues are still under work or under consideration, but they were quite happy with the work that was done by SWB. And also internally here in our project, I think it turned out very well. We had, in addition to the PCM and the statistical consultant, we had 6 volunteers working. We had 2 volunteers on each of the 3 groups, ME/CFS, long COVID, and control. And they were supporting each other internally, and they were supporting each other between the 3 groups, because there were many problems in the interpretation and practical data wrangling issues that they could support each other in. I was very happy to see the quality of the analysis group, and the way they supported each other was very interesting and very warming to see in a way. We did all the analysis in R, and we did all the presentations in R Markdown, so we could easily combine the data when we had finished it. It is possible that Sol will come back to us at later, but for the moment they have enough work to do on the data based on what we have seen here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. Again, big thanks to you and all the volunteers that have been involved in this project, and thanks also for being with us here today. So this one, Matt, this is an interview that I did with a client, Phil, from our project. The client was Bridge to Health. And Matt, if you could kindly just post the URL that if people want to take a look later. So this brings us towards the end of today's. Matt, if you quickly want to take us through everything that we have planned for the next year, and then we can close out.
Yeah, absolutely. So really quickly, what we want to do in the future is we want to support more publications and presentations on behalf of Statistics Without Borders. So if you know of any groups, or if you know of any organizations beyond Clubhouse, beyond Amstat News, beyond working with Data for Good, please let us know. We're always excited to get our name out there. We want to develop additional partnerships. And so we've got the Committee for International Relations and Statistics, and I incorrectly put here council. So I apologize for that as well. Again, this is why we need a copy editor. Please join us to be a copy editor so you can catch all of my mistakes. And we also want to find ways to, related to that, involve more volunteers. So we want to find ways to train folks. We want new volunteer positions, and want to make sure that this is as productive as possible for you. So if you want to go to the next slide, we will publish all of this, but if you are saying, hey, I would love to get involved, or I would love to be involved in a certain capacity, there are 3 main ways. One, there are vacancies that are currently open. So we've recopied some of the vacancies that were on earlier slides, like a data analyst position or content developer. Please let us know if that's something that's of interest to you. You can reach out to us via email. In addition to that, we always send out calls for volunteers when we do have new positions that are open. So when any vacancy opens up, we'll send that out via email. And then finally, in order to receive those emails, you want to make sure that you register to be a member of Statistics Without Borders. So you can fill out an application to be a member by heading to statisticswithoutborders.org, and you can opt into receiving emails from SWB. I would encourage you to double check your spam box if you haven't seen any emails from us lately, but we send those out from time to time. But given that you're here, I imagine that you are receiving our emails. And then finally, if we want to head to the next slide. If you know of a not-for-profit organization that could benefit from free assistance from us, or if you've got skills that you want to volunteer, or if you just want to hear about the impactful projects that we do via social media platforms, please head to our website and you can find all of that information there. And with that, I'm happy to stick around and answer questions that folks have, but I think that Shloka, if we want to head to the next slide, here's all of our information. Our website where you can contact us via social media or get in touch with us or follow us on those platforms, as well as our email address. So I'll pause here and I'll double check the chat to see if there are any questions. Gary, thank you for calling out. Yeah, make sure that your SWB membership hasn't lapsed for regulatory reasons, et cetera. We do require folks to check in or to log into their account at least once a year. You should get emails about that. But yeah, any questions that we can answer for folks while we're on the call today, and you can put those in the chat, or if you want, you can come on microphone and ask them. Ooh, thank you very much, Jeffrey. Please, yes, do reach out. Happy to connect with you about this. And you had also made a note earlier, if I remember correctly, about volunteer management. So really happy to put our minds together and figure out what we can do to work together effectively. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat. I'm not hearing anybody come on microphone. So thank you all very much. Shloka, happy to let you, round us out for today.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you to all those that took time from your work day to be with us. It's a pleasure to be here. We will send out a recording of this video as well as the resources that Matt was sharing in case you're interested in looking those up. But again, please reach out if you have any questions, if you just want to say hello. And we are super, super grateful to have the opportunity of working with all of you. Hope you have a nice day, evening, wherever you are. And thank you again for all that you do for us.
Thank you.